So today I'll be talking about why great players struggle at new clubs. Now, we've all seen so many examples of a great player signing for a club, and for some reason it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work out. At their old team, they were balling out. Maybe they're an attacker. They were scoring goals, providing assists, taking on their man. They just look confident, and then they sign for a new team, and they just look like a shell of themselves. They don't look like a. They just look like a completely different player. And it just doesn't work out. Maybe they stay at the new club for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, or maybe they just end up just rotting there, just staying on the bench for the duration of their contract, whether that be 4 or 5 years. So I'll be talking about why great players struggle at new clubs. And now the first point is an obvious point, and it's basically just down to the system/formation. Now it's probably happened to many young players as well, where you may join a new team and then you realize that the way they play or the formation that the team has in place, they don't even have like your preferred position. Maybe they play like a 4-3-3 with a holding midfielder, whereas you like to play as a number 10. Or maybe they play a 3 at the back, and you're more of a traditional fullback, So you're not really that attack. You can't really play as a right wing back because you don't really have that attacking threat, and you don't really like playing as a centre back. So you're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And you see this a lot of the time with professional footballers. You're seeing this right now with Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe at PSG, he was the man. Obviously, Ligue 1 is a less difficult league. Obviously, some people call it a farmers league. But to be fair, he was still scoring goals in the Champions League, still popping up in big moments for PSG. Got them to their first Champions League final. But obviously at Real Madrid, he hasn't been, I wouldn't say he's been awful. He hasn't been terrible, and his form is slightly picking up. But it's still not the same. It's still not him at his optimum, simply because his best position is on the left wing. And now he has to play striker, because obviously you're not going to move Vinicius Jr. out of that left wing. Vinicius Jr., he's earned that position. That's him, He's in Ballon d'Or conversations. He's won Real Madrid 2 Champions Leagues, scored in 2 finals. Like, that's his, he's got the number 7 as well. That's Vinny's position. So Mbappe, obviously the left wing is his preferred position. So he's gonna have to adapt his game as that number 9, and obviously it's gonna take time. I remember there's a story coming out about how Mbappe literally refused. I think it was for France. It was either for France or PSG. He literally refused to play as the number 9. Like, he wanted to play on the left wing, and I think he asked PSG to sign Olivier Giroud, because he likes playing with Giroud for France. He liked, linking up with Olivier Giroud for France. He felt like that was sort of the type of striker he needed to, play at his best. So obviously, Mbappe is one example. Obviously, you got examples like Jadon Sancho at Man United, in my opinion, because when he signed on the Oli, it was more counter-attacking football, and that's not really Sancho's style. Sancho likes to, link up with players, play little 1-2s. At Dortmund he had ball players like Bellingham. He had a top striker like Haaland. He could play little through balls into Haaland, and Haaland would run onto it, finish. He had guys like Emre Can, Marco Reus, just all these ball players he could play around. Whereas at Man United, it was more just, Bruno Fernandes will get the ball and try to launch the ball 60 yards, or someone else will launch it 60 yards. And obviously that type of football is more suited for guys like, the Rashfords, the Alangas, when Alanga was there. It's not really Sancho's style. And then obviously the last example I have is Varane. I remember when you young guys might not know about Juan Sebastian Varane, but when he signed for Man United, he was expected to be, that guy. He came from Lazio, and everyone knew he was a baller. And ultimately, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't a bad signing, but it just didn't work out like it was supposed to. And I can't remember who it was, but one of the Man United players was saying that, in training, Varane was a baller, and when he was on the pitch, you could see his quality. But it was simply because Man United played a 4-4-2 formation, whereas Varane was better in that 4-3-3. And because back in those days, the 4-3-3 wasn't really used as much in the Premier League, that's why Varane struggled to adapt. But then a lot of players say that Varane was really that guy. Like, he was good enough that if United actually changed it up to the 4-3-3, Varane could have thrived in that system. So
Varane, best touch I've ever seen in football. The problem with Varane was he was too advanced for United at the time. He was so good. He needed a freak, and United, we never had that. It was always Roy Keane and Scholes. That's why I always said he was ahead of our time. We wasn't ready for him at the time. But when he said in training, different level gravy.
Varane wasn't overwhelmed by Manchester United. He was a really confident, fantastic player. He came in to a 4-4-2 dressing room, and he came in as the first point to try and take us to 4-3-3. And it just took everyone a little bit of time. In that couple of years, if you remember, it was really difficult for us. I think he was a brilliant player. He went out there, but he played differently than we, as our Clockwork 11, played.
Obviously, yeah, that's the first point why great players and why you might even struggle at your new team, despite you knowing yourself that you've got the talent to make an impact, have an effect on games, literally because the system and formation. And this is why I tell young players that when you're signing for a new team, maybe mid-season or at the start of pre-season, take that time to go train with the team, go to their matches. You can watch them play, or even in pre-season when you're on trial for them, you're playing a few trial games. Literally just watch and analyze the style, the system, the formation, and see where you can, and see if you can see yourself, playing in one of those positions. Because that's what I did when I was doing my new team. Anytime we had like a few preseason games, I always, let's say, because I was a new player, I started on the bench. I always just looked around and I was like, all right, cool. Whose place in this team can I take? Like, what can I bring to this team that they're lacking already? Like, for example, one of my teams, I realized they were playing like a 4-2. They were playing a 4-2-3-1, but I could tell that the two holding midfielders, I knew them because I'd played against them at previous clubs when we were younger. The two holding midfielders in the 4-2-3-1, these guys were more number 10s, and I was thinking, damn, like how we playing two number 10, like two more naturally number 10s in the two holding. And you could tell on the pitch as well, because so many gaps were being left. They were both of them guys were trying to go forward, trying to attack, and it was just leaving a big holes in the middle. So obviously, I just told when the coach was asking me, all right, cool, where do you play? I just said, yo, I play as a holding midfielder. And then I came on that day, and then obviously I showed up that midfield. We were playing better football, and yeah, basically impressed. And throughout that whole season, I was just getting more minutes. And then eventually, first game of the season, despite not me starting any of the preseason games, first game of the season came around, and I started. We won the game, and I even scored as well. So literally, that would be my advice to young players. Literally, go, even if you're thinking about leaving your current team mid-season. Let's say now, like it's December, right? It's December right now. If you're thinking about, damn, I kind of want to leave my team next year, go train with another team. See what the culture's like. See what the system's like. See what the formation's like. See what your competition's like, and see if there's a chance of see where you can fit yourself into the starting 11. See where you can see, okay, what is this team lacking? What can I provide to this team that they don't have already? Just little things like that, and then obviously you gotta play it smart sometimes like that, and then from there, once you get an opportunity, you just take it. So that's the first point why great players struggle at new clubs. Is literally just down to the system and the formation. And then the other point about why great players struggle at their new clubs is simply down to the culture. Maybe they just experience such a culture shock that they simply just can't perform. Now, what I mean by this is that maybe they just don't vibe with their teammates. Maybe at their old club, they're used to, being the man. They're used to being praised all the time. They're used to, never receiving criticism. Then they go to their new club. Maybe it's a better club. Maybe it's a step up. And then they go into a change room, and then they can't really handle the criticism that they're getting from their teammates. Maybe their teammates are demanding more of them, demanding them do better. And instead of rising to those expectations, they sort of, crumble. They sort of go into their shell. Maybe they've got a really confrontational manager that they've never had before. Maybe they got a manager who loves to shout, get in players' faces, and that's sort of his way of motivating players. But obviously, this new player that's coming, he's not really used to that. He's more used to, being coddled, being told by his manager, "Oh, don't worry, everything's gonna be all right." So when this manager starts shouting at him, starts telling him, "Yo, you need to run harder. You need to make sure the pass is executed better. Make sure you need to take up these positions." Instead of him, getting motivated, getting up for it, he sort of goes into his shell. He sort of, goes into his shell, loses confidence, and then he's simply just not the same player he once was. And this can even work in reverse. This could be, maybe there's a guy who's used to, the confrontational manager. He likes, players criticizing him, players getting onto each other. He doesn't mind, having an argument with a teammate just to, sort out any differences so for the benefit of the team. But so maybe he's used to that sort of style, but then he goes to another team where, the culture is a bit soft. The culture's like, everyone's a bit, just a bit too relaxed. He feels like everyone's a bit too relaxed. No one's really taking it seriously enough. And then obviously when he tries to, criticize a teammate, when he tries to complain, he's sort of seen as like a virus in the change room, as like a cancer. You know, nobody really likes him because everyone feels like, oh, he's too serious. He's not. He's bad energy. He's bad vibes. And they can literally work like that as well. He might feel like, oh, the new player might feel, oh, these guys are lazy. They don't work hard enough. They don't do this. They don't do that. Whereas his teammates are thinking, what's wrong with this guy, man? He's taking it too seriously. It's just football, blah blah blah. Like it's not that deep. Maybe they have that mentality, and the new player just has the mentality of like, yo, I need to work, I need to grind. And maybe he's just like I said, he's just seen as a cancer, seen as a virus, just seen as a bad teammate, pretty much. And obviously that feeds into the manager's decision of, you know, how much game time he gets. Maybe the manager doesn't play him as much because the manager can tell that his teammates don't really vibe with him. They don't really like him. So literally, it can even work the other way. Or maybe there's a player who, you know, likes to take it easy in training. He doesn't like to, you know, exert too much energy in training. He likes to just, you know, go maybe 50% in training and then all out in the games and then produce in the games. Someone like an Eden Hazard. You know, Eden Hazard didn't really take training that seriously. He just, you know, he just went there basically not to get fined by the club. He just went there. Apparently this guy wouldn't even tie his shoelaces. He'd just, you know, go into there, just get a few touches in the games. He wasn't really too bothered about the result. He wasn't really, you know, trying to push his body to the maximum. And he had the mentality of like, yo, the training doesn't matter. Just on the match day, just give me the ball and I'll go score 2 goals and it's cool. And obviously for Chelsea, he did that, but obviously, you know, not taking care of his body, maybe not training the best. Obviously that led to, you know, the early decline at Real Madrid. You know, he got that first injury at Real Madrid and then he could just never come back from it. So.
Did you regret that he didn't work out?
Dan is a fantastic guy. He was really accepted. He had a good relationship with everyone. I think that the problem was the injuries, but also the fact that he had difficulty to be in competition. When you are in Real Madrid and you have injury, you have to be back and to be competitive with the others. Because if you are not playing, there is another one that can play. And so I think he had difficulties to compete, to fight, to play.
So that's the second point. Literally, it could just be a culture shock for some players. Maybe some players like to, you know, work hard, and then they join a team where the players don't really work hard. The players are a bit too laid back for them. Or there might be another player who prefers the laid back style like Eden Hazard. He prefers, you know, not to train too much. He doesn't like too much competition, and just wants to play football. But then he ends up joining a big team like Real Madrid, who, you know, they take every single training session seriously. Every single training session is, you know, there to be won. So yeah, those are the reasons why great players struggle at new clubs. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. I've been JT and I'm out.